a diner run by the devil. It was about 3 a.m. on a Thursday, going through another phase of insomnia and Netflix binging when I got a strong surprise hunger attack, quickly getting up and raiding my empty fridge for the third time in hopes food had magically restocked somehow. I sighed, turning to look over empty, bare-bones apartment. I could feel an emotional knife drive through my chest with each wall, where picture frames, once covered in now empty slates of dark red paint. Deciding I needed to tame my hunger, along with escape my depressing surroundings for a time, I grabbed a jacket and head out to grab a bite to eat. There was a small pizza place around the corner of my apartment building that was open 24/7, one I typically visited on all-nighters. On this night, however, during my walk I came across an old-timey 1960s diner you'd see in The Outsiders or Grease, one that had never been there before. I stood in shock and confusion for a moment as I stared at the shiny, blinking neon signs surrounding the establishment. I hadn't seen or heard any construction, and I passed this road almost every day for work. It was as if the place appeared overnight. My train of thought had been quickly interrupted by my growling stomach, and seeing as how I was standing in front of a diner, one I was very curious about, I tried to brush off my confusion as me just being oblivious to my surroundings. I must have simply missed all the work going on. The very moment I entered, I was struck with a severe case of unease. Something about the place just seemed off. I couldn't exactly put my finger onto why, it just did. I looked around the restaurant booths and tables to see the place was relatively dead. It looked like 7 customers, not including myself, and all of them were acting rather strange. One man stood in front of his table, just staring down into his coffee cup, completely still. Another had been pouring a long empty bottle of salt shaker onto a tray of pancakes. There was a woman talking into her phone, but it sounded like she was speaking in binary, just talking in ones and zeros. What looked like her sister had been staring out of the window, softly tapping her fingers against the glass. "How can I help you, hun?" an enthusiastic voice asked, almost in a yell, breaking me from my train of thought once more, along with giving me a bit of a scare. I jumped slightly before looking to my left to see a large blonde woman with a thick Brooklyn accent. Much like when I stepped into the building, making eye contact with this woman sent another chill of unease down my spine. Her eyes were a dull orange, and more cat-like than human, and her skin was far too pale, almost milk white. Her giant smile, somehow even wider. Yeah. Just looking to grab a quick bite," I replied, trying to sound as calm and collected as possible. She simply nodded and led me to an empty booth, before handing me a small menu. "Be back with you in a minute, hun," she said with a smile. I opened my menu, and was met with pure confusion as I looked at 2 pages worth of black squiggly lines, and blurry paint splotches in small boxes, like you'd see on a newspaper or book in a cartoon. "Can I help you, sir?" I heard yet another voice come from beside my table, that of a dignified man. I looked up to see a tall, lanky man, dressed in a 3-piece suit and bowler hat. Much like the waitress, he put me very on edge, to the point I felt like I may be in danger. His eyes were serpent-like and bloodshot red. His skin looked leathery, almost like an elephant, and looked almost yellow. What's with the menu? You guys not have actual food?" I asked, feeling myself slightly recoil at the sight of this man, whose response to my question paralyzed me in fear, giving a large smirk as he took a seat in my booth across the table from me, before enthusiastically clearing his throat. "No, we don't, Henry. Not at all." I could feel the color leave my body as I heard my voice come from the mouth of a man I've never seen before in my life. I was too frozen in fear and confusion to even respond, so he continued onward. "What we sell here are deals and favors. You found yourself here because there is something you desire deeply, and will do almost anything to obtain. Tiffany, for example," he finished, his grin widening at that last line. My fear was replaced with curiosity, as well as a bit of anger hearing this man say her name. "What the hell are you saying?" I asked, with a slight snarl in my voice. He clicked his tongue and waved his finger at me. Now. No need for hostility, Henry. I'm offering to return your wife to you. Surely you can show a bit more grace," he said. I immediately lost all malice hearing his offer, which he must have picked up on, I see you understand. Now, if it's proof you need, why not take a look for yourself? He said, pointing out the window next to our table, to a sight I've seen every night in my sleep for the past 8 years. The snowy street had been filled with flashing red and blue lights, emitting from 2 cop cars and an ambulance. They had all been surrounding a silver Ford pickup that had T-boned the driver's side of a black Jeep, Tiff's bloody body trapped between her airbag and the crushed door. I could feel the tears well up in my eyes as I saw the night I've tried so hard to forget play out right in front of my eyes. So what's the deal? I muttered as I stared into Tiffany's dead eyes. I heard a soft chuckle come from the other end of the table before he cleared his throat once more. Simple. I can make it so that your wife was never hit. You and her can spend the rest of your life together. Then once that life's up, well, then I'll come to collect on our deal, he said with a sharp grin. It took me a moment to realize what he was saying. You... Are you trying to buy my soul? I asked in a shaky voice. He chuckled once more and slightly slapped his knee. Well, yes, I guess you could put it that way, he said with a confident smirk. I felt my brain almost melting at the situation I found myself in. So that means... Are you the devil? I asked with extreme precautions, dreading the response. His smirk quickly twisted into an unholy, malicious grin once I asked. Let me answer that with a question of my own. Would that really sway your decision if I were? Is your wife's soul more precious than your own? He asked with a sly grin as he extended his arm towards me for a handshake. I looked at his leathery, almost talon-like hand for a moment as his questions floated around my head, before grabbing it to finish our deal. Pleasure doing business with you, Henry, and see you in a few years, he said with a wink before aggressively shaking my hand. After that I blacked out, waking up in a cold sweat as I frantically looked around to find myself in my bedroom. I thought it was all just a really weird dream, till I felt the sheets toss and turn next to me. I quickly looked down to see Tiffany, sleeping sound asleep in her spot on the bed. It's been about 3 years since then. Me and Tiff have been happier than ever, and are expecting a child within the next few months. I just pray he doesn't come to collect his debt before that happens, although, after striking a deal with that man, I doubt anyone upstairs is looking to do me any favors.